What happens in the sky affects life down here on Earth. The celestial compass shows you how and guides your way with astrology you can use from professional astrologer Kathy Beal. Every episode features her light-hearted, practical forecasts and navigational tips, blended with humor, optimism, and a love of patterns, symbolism, and pop culture references. Kathy translates technicalities into concepts that apply to real life. You'll learn how the current moment ties to where we've been, from the recent past to cycles that last happened years ago, and get a look at where we're heading. And much more, from special topics to special guests. The Celestial Compass, enlightening, entertaining, and empowering. Here's your host, Kathy Beal.
Greetings, Earthlings. This is Kathy Beal of EmpowermentUnlimited.net, and we're going to start with a brief look at what is going on astrologically in the month of September. It is a time of looking within, looking in closets, looking in file folders, looking in the past. All the outer planets are retrograde. Mercury is turning retrograde on the 9th. Communication is phenomenally important all month long because when Mercury goes retrograde, we have the opportunity to revisit all kinds of things we've already gone over. Venus is also in a sign ruled by Mercury, Virgo, which brings up the file folder organizational cleanup aspect to this, and Mars is in the other sign ruled by Mercury, which is Gemini, and it will be whipping up all kinds of communication, messages, multitasking, going in 15 directions at once. There's a moment of seemingly slowness around the Pisces full moon on the 10th because Mercury retrogrades the day before, but and that will be a kind of confusing time, but apart from that, it is a rip-roaring, minds on fire kind of month, which is really appropriate for our guest today. How's that for a segue? We are talking today about the concept of igniting your life. And my guest is someone who is more of a multi-hyphenate than I am. And that is really saying something. Igniter, connector, artist, mama, enrichment expert, teacher, speaker, business leader, Labyrinth facilitator. Sarah Gish is the owner of Gish Creative, a personal, family, and business enrichment company whose goal is to ignite lives, champion culture, and create connections. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. Boy, when you said minds on fire, I lit up.
Of course you did.
Of course I did.
That is what you do.
Here.
Well, you know, for everyone listening, I spent decades in Houston. Sarah is in Houston. We circled around many of the same things, but we have not met face to face. So this is really exciting. And you work out of the lovely, lovely store, Body, Mind, and Soul, which was my base for almost 20 years. So they've got that in common too. But for
I work out of there. I'm just there once a week where I do igniting sessions. So I want to clarify that because it's very separate from my business. I love that.
Yeah, right. So let's just dive into this concept. What do you mean by ignite your life?
Okay, so ignite your life is super rich just in the words, okay? So I'll get to that in a minute, but what I mean by igniting your life is where you are doing what you love. You're doing what makes your heart sing. You're on fire, quote unquote, for your life. And when you ignite your life, it's a firewall to addiction, depression, anxiety, and isolation. So being ignited for your life is where you say, okay, I wake up every morning. It's a drudgery to go to work. Let's don't do that anymore. Life is short, man. It is short. And so be ignited for your life. Be excited. And I used to ask people, I can talk about the project in a little bit, but I used to ask people what they loved, and it was like really boring answers, in my opinion. It was like, I love my dog, I love my mother. And I'm like, no. What ignites your life? So that's why I switched it, because it's like, what ignites your life? And the word ignite comes from Latin for ignere. And ignere means bringing two things together to start a fire. So in order to ignite your life, you have to be connected to either a person or to an event or activity or whatever. So I say that my Ignite Your Life art project is about igniting lives and creating connections. And so that's what it is. That's what it is, man. Be on fire for your life.
And so how did you get the idea for this?
You know, it's the weirdest thing, because I mean, I'm an artist and a writer, and inspiration comes from, I was going to say God knows where, but I think Spirit does know where. But I was getting ready to celebrate, or to do a video actually, to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of my guide to summer day camps, which I did in Houston. I was an expert for years on that because I have two sons. And it was midnight, and I said, how will you ignite your life? I don't know, something just popped into my head, and I made a sign that said, how will you ignite your life? Underlining so your life. And I don't know where that came from, but I just went to the video shoot the next day, and I was like, okay, we're going to talk about igniting your life with summer camps and activities and blah, blah, blah. So that's where it came from. And then it just stuck. I mean, I became the Ignite Your Life girl, and I've really worked hard. I mean, I'm a marketer too. I love marketing and communication. And I don't even want to say I branded myself, but I'm really good at raising awareness about that and about igniting your life. So people look at me, you know, I have a lot of followers through my blog and other, you know, I'm on TV a lot and et cetera, radio. But people look at me and they say, oh, wow, she lives an ignited life. Why don't I ignite my life? Because that's the only reason, not the only reason, but I want other people to be inspired, you know, by what I do, and to go ahead and do it in their own lives, you know. So. And
it wouldn't necessarily look the same for each person, right?
Oh, right. Absolutely. No. It does not look the same. And, you know, I have to say, well, anyway, go ahead. Other questions?
No. Well, so if someone comes to you for an Ignite Your Life session and they go, oh, what is this? What do you, someone comes to you, how do you approach it with a person?
Okay, so I do Ignite sessions on Mondays at Body, Mind, and Soul, and virtually anytime. So it's interesting because people, they come into the store and they're like, I understand tarot cards. I understand, you know, medium sessions. What is this Ignite session that you're talking about? And it's different for each person. What I tell them is I'm a mirror to them. So I help bring out what they already know. So I truly believe everybody's got the answers inside of them. And I'm just a mirror, and I help you bring that out. And so a lot of times it's just me listening to what they, you know, what's on their heart. And sometimes it's untangling some area of their life, or other times it's literally, what's your purpose? And each person that does a session with me walks away with a personal mantra, so that they can kind of wrap their mind around what we talked about. And, you know, like my personal mantra, I'll just share with you, is I divinely ignite lives and create connections. And I use the word divine because it's from spirit. I mean, everything that I do is from spirit, from my higher power. You know, it's divinely led. And so it's not just me. I mean, it's me in partnership. And that works for me.
So my mind is going all over creation with this. So the mantra just comes to you, basically, and this is something that someone can then say after they leave, and it will remind them of what you've talked to.
And I'm a writer, so the mantra, sometimes we work on it together. So it's a mantra that they can take. I mean, I actually record or keep the mantras in my phone so that I then text the client the following month and I remind them of their mantra. And they love it because it does something. I mean, I think everybody and anybody that's listening can create their own mantra when they stop, after this interview is over with. You just sit down and listen to your heart, listen to spirit if you have that connection, or listen to the universe, and come up with a personal mantra. I mean, what moves you? And a lot of times I start with I am, yada, yada, or, something else. But it's really good to start with I am if you're kind of stuck, because what is your I am? They say, what is your why? But and I always say keep it short and simple, because, you want to do this while you're driving, you want to do it in the shower, the grocery line, etc. But I do want to go back to Ignite, because I'm sitting here looking at the word Ignite, I should say. I'm looking at a bookmark that I made that has 3 pictures that I took of fire, actually cars on fire. One is, I know, it's so crazy, because I really want to clarify this whole Ignite thing. Like, I started it in 2013 with that summer day camp video shoot, but then I have art cars, and I'm actually working on my 6th art car, so that's a whole nother thing. But I took one of my art cars, the current art car that I had, called Hubba Hubba Art Car. A friend and I drove on our very first Ignite Your Life road trip. We drove west to California, which is where my family's from, did lots of research out there. We're driving east back to Houston, and my car caught on fire under the hood in Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh, Phoenix. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. All right.
I know. So that's where I bought a new used car, what a deal, what a steal. And that became the Phoenix Rising art car, which then became kind of the symbol of this art project. I should say one of the pictures of fire is on the way out, on the way west, we saw a huge truck completely on fire. I'm looking at that picture right now, and there was like smoke everywhere. I-10 was shut down. It was crazy. And then on the way back, my car caught on fire. And then I'm writing a book, about my Ignite Your Life art project right now. And I was researching, my brother is front and center of that project. And it turns out he wrote a letter to my dad just about his life, reminiscing. Both my brother and my dad were also writers. And it turns out that he had a car that also had a fire under its hood and died. So it's just like, we have this thing with fire. I don't know what it is.
So let's put the pause button on, just briefly. Some people might not know what an art car is.
Oh, yes. Well,
and this is a major feature, and I'm just going to slip in here. I led the lowriders in the very first art car parade. So this used to be part of my bailiwick. So please tell people of the miracle that is the art car.
I did not know that. Okay, so that's so cool. Well, art cars, they are a Houston thing. They're also built around the world. There's art trucks in Pakistan and India. But Houston is known as the art car capital of the world. And we have an art car parade every year. It's now on the second Saturday in April in Houston, up and down this big road, Allen Parkway. And art cars are decorated cars, painted. Sometimes they're huge. Like a friend of mine has a Henatron, or there's a huge skull. Henatron is a huge chicken. The skull car is a huge skull. I have had, like I said, 6 art cars. One was a mini one, but I'm working on my 6th art car because I totaled my other art car recently. And I totaled it on the anniversary of the Hubba Hubba art car catching on fire, the 9-year anniversary. So 9s are very important to me. My license plate spells out I-9, N-I-T-E, so ignite, but with a 9. Because 9s are so symbolic of beginnings and endings. And so they're just beautifully decorated. I can't always say painted, often painted. Sometimes people glue things on their cars. Some people will just have bumper stickers, all kinds of things. But at the parade, you'll see about 250 art cars. for an afternoon, going up and down. And I love that you led the low riders. That's awesome.
Led the low. Oh yeah, I was blowing soap bubbles. They didn't like that. But a thing about the art cars in Houston is a lot of these are made, or people drive them in just for the parade, and
Right.
some of them live in a garage because they're not meant to be transportation. But there are others that are part of daily life, and a feature of living in inner city Houston for me was just stumbling on this massive, beautiful piece of art on wheels every now and again. And I took to just leaving notes in people's windows going, "I love your car.
Oh,
Thank you for
we
this."
love that.
Yeah. So now your most recent one, the one that most recently caught fire, won an award in the current parade, right?
Yes, and that one actually didn't catch fire, but I totaled it. Unfortunately, yes, it won first place in a three-way tie in the painted category, which was really an honor because I have to say, when I made my Hubba Hubba art card, my first art card I made in 2004, so it's been quite a while, 20 years almost of making art cards. So the Hubba Hubba art card was glued. I'm real good at gluing things on. I love to glue. And everybody asked me what we used, and so we used 100% silicone clear gel, or whatever that stuff is. So just FYI, if anybody's curious and wants to glue things on their cars. So when Hubba Hubba caught on fire in Phoenix, I got this new white Toyota, used Toyota Corolla. I decided to challenge myself artistically and painted. And that was a huge deal because I've never painted a car. I have worked on some. And then this past year, in April, I changed it from Phoenix Rising to call it Love Ignites Mobile because I felt I wanted to kind of move over to love. Love ignites lives. And that's a big statement of mine, is that love ignites lives, which is true. And so I updated it. There was a paint shortage. There's not anymore, but in April there was a paint shortage, if you can believe it, or you probably can because of the pandemic. So I just had to update little parts of it. I added circles and hearts. I put 43 hearts on there in honor of my brother. And and it won first place, which was it was really an honor. And the people that were the judges really understood the story, that it was about my brother who died of alcoholism, actually August 31st, 2004. So, they really got the story. And my art always has a story. I don't ever just throw little circles on the page or, throw numbers in there like the I-9 NITE license plate. Everything has meaning behind what I do.
Now you've brought your brother up several times, and you say that the Ignite Your Life approach has the helps you connect to other people. So explain more about connection. I mean, with art cars, actually, I get that because people have a visceral, instinctive reaction to them, and then people start talking, and if they see you, they want to find out what this is. If they see your chalkboard outside Body, Mind, and Spirit, and it says your question about igniting your life, they might come in and go, "What is this?" So can you elaborate on the role of connection, the power of connection? Why is it important?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, the reason I bring up my brother is because he was an inspiration to me for this art project. And I am sober. I've been sober since 1985. And so it's because of Jeff, his name is Jeffrey Gish, that it's because of him that I got sober, because he was put into treatment, and they said to all of us what we should do, and they said, "Sarah, you need to start going to AA." So that's just why I bring him up, because he's very central to my inspiration. Connection. So connection, you cannot connect to anyone else if you have this foggy something or other in the way. So if you've got an addiction, you're not going to connect fully with somebody. If you haven't connected to yourself, I mean, I have these 12 ways to ignite your life daily, which I'll tell later on. But one of the things on there is meditate every morning, which I do, meditate each morning. And you've got to connect to yourself, to spirit or universe, whatever it is, and then you can start connecting to others. So connection is key. I mean, that's how we humans are craving. We crave connection. We need connection. It makes us healthy. And so also just what I do for connection, this is a really simple thing. I say I ignite lives and create connections. So you ignite lives by meditating every morning. You create connections by exchanging names with everyone you come in contact with. And that is a challenge that I throw out there to people that are listening. And I started that challenge for myself in 2013, and I've been doing it since 2013, and I'm not kidding. Maybe there's a couple of times where I haven't asked people what their names are, because it just seemed like, I don't know, it'd be interrupting their personal space or whatever. But I always ask people their names. And at restaurants, they always think they're in trouble. And I just say, you're not in trouble. I just exchange names with everyone I meet, come across. So this morning, Rory was the guy at the grocery store. I mean, I can tell you. Then when I go out this afternoon, I'll meet somebody else. And when you exchange names, it causes a little ching, a little connection and a heart connection. I also, speaking of heart connections, I do hugs, heart-centered hugs. So I hug on the left side because our heart is more on the left. So you kind of touch heart. But no, connection is key. And there is this man, Atul Gawande, who is a hero of mine, who wrote the Checklist Manifesto. I think that's what it's called. And he was a doctor, and he said emergency rooms need a checklist, and they don't have them, believe it or not. It may be different now. This was 15 years ago. But he said, just by getting the names of everyone in the emergency room, which wasn't a standard practice, but when they started doing that, mistakes went down by 30%. So,
you mean getting the names of staff or just talking to anybody?
Yeah, getting the names of everyone in the room, because sometimes you're in an emergency room, so you're like in a rush and you're trying to deal with this emergency, but if they stop, I mean, there was literally not a checklist for emergency rooms. And so he wrote this book, and it's called The Activation Phenomena. And he coined that phrase. And when I found that several years ago, I was like, oh my God, that's what I do here. When I exchange names, it's an activation phenomena that you create. So it's really important.
Do you actually engage in a conversation and find out anything about the person, or you just make the connection?
Well, it depends. It depends on how much time. Like at the grocery store this morning, I just said, "Are you having a good day?" And the guy was like, "Yes." And then but I'm not going to say, "Hey, what ignites your life?" Because he's in a hurry. I'm kind of in a hurry. But it just depends. It makes a huge difference, though, because people that are across from us don't always get looked at even. We're in such a hurry in this world that we just, we kind of rush through things. And so let's slow down. Let's slow down and at least just exchange names.
So just it makes you feel less alone? What's another benefit of this?
It's not even that, because I'm not very lonely. I'm a very extroverted person. It makes me feel human, if that makes sense, because what I have done is I've connected with the person in front of me. I've connected with a person in a deeper way that I'm having a simple interaction with. That's it.
That's it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
And do your clients report to you that they do this?
That they, well, not necessarily. I mean, with my clients, I'm more focused on, okay, go out and live your dreams, be who you're meant to be. I'm just saying in general, this is what I tell everyone in general, ignite your life by exchanging names. So, or by connecting to yourself and spirit or universe first. So, yeah.
This is a good place for us to take a brief break. So hang in there, everybody. We'll be back in just a minute or two.
The cutting edge of conscious radio, Om Times Radio, IOM FM. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. Om Times Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single Om Times endeavor. Host your show with Om Times Radio Network.
Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Want help with your own celestial compass? Visit my site, empowermentunlimited.net, for Astro Insight forecasts for each week, month, and new and full moon. Want to explore the personal impact? Make a decision? Understand another person? It is possible. Click the Services tab to book a personal session with me. That address again, empowermentunlimited.net.
You came across someone struggling with hunger. How would you recognize them? Would you notice an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for summer
break because she may not be having lunch again until September?
Or a war veteran who's having a hard time landing a job
and getting back on his feet?
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Celestial Compass. We're talking today with Sarah Gish about her Ignite Your Life program and actually way of life. Can you explain how this is a firewall to addiction and psychological issues like depression and anxiety?
Yeah, addiction, depression, isolation, and anxiety. So I've got these 12 ways to ignite your life daily. Can I read them?
Oh, please. I was going to ask you about them. No. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So I've been writing these over 10 years. And so it started out with 8 daily life amends, and then it became 10. And then anyway, there's stories about each one. But when you practice all of these 12 things on a daily basis, you just don't have a desire for addiction, depression, isolation, and anxiety. And the only way, that's a really good question to ask, why does igniting your life, create a firewall to those, and it just keeps them out? And it's really because when you have an ignited life, you are plugged into yourself, to your heart, and to other people. And so, boom, away goes loneliness, depression. I'm bipolar. I am bipolar, and I take medication for that. So I can't just say, "Ooh, I'm ignited," and I don't need any help. So I take medication. So there goes the depression, isolation. I'm a member of sobriety programs, and that's where I get the higher power and the connection of the people. But also just being out there and ignited. The real thing about all of that is if you are your true self in the best sense, not your true self that is the one that's crawling around looking for booze, or, the one that's holed up in your house all the time, but your true best self, then you won't have these things. You won't struggle with those 4 things: addiction, depression, isolation, and anxiety. So here, let me read to you the 12 ways to ignite your life daily. And these are on my website. So I have a way and then a word that goes with it. So the first one is trust in spirit, trust. Number 2, take care of yourself, nourish. Number 3, meditate each morning. Meditate. 4, commune with nature. Commune. 5, listen to your heart. Listen. 6, connect with love. Love. 7, be of service. Serve. 8, allow forgiveness. Forgive. 9, always be grateful. Thank. 10, explore your creativity. Create. 11, learn something new. Learn. 12, enjoy life. Laugh.
Laugh. There we go. So these essentially just create a something that just it fuels your own life force.
Right. And I'm actually doing a 12 Ways group with women right now. It's a year-long program, and each month we study a different way. And it's been really wonderful. We do Zoom and in person. It's hybrid. But it was really my gift, post-pandemic. We're not really, I don't know if we have an epidemic. I don't know what we have now. But it was just a way of saying, hey, we're all in this transformation time. Let's figure out, let's use these 12 ways, and let's go deep with a different one each month. And connect with love is number 6, because it's right in the middle, of the 12. I mean, that's something we should do. Should is not the right way to put it, but it's something that I recommend we do at all times. I mean, for me, love is the way to connect, to ignite your life. And my art car that not caught on fire, that I totaled it August 4th. And that was, it's called Love Ignites Mobile. And that was the beginning of me kind of turning the project more towards love, shining a light on love, back to where it was before, but just in a different way, a deeper way, knowing that love ignites lives. And it's not the only thing. I mean, have all this other, words, trust, nourish, meditate, commune, etc. But, and the new car is going to be called Iggy the Igniter. So Iggy the Igniter is going to have the 12 ways to ignite your life on the car itself. It's going to be a, learning mobile, and on the front windshield, it's going to say Love Ignites Lives, because that's where it's at. That's what does it.
And is your goal to have this one ready to enter it in the 2023 Art Car Parade?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I am actually I took the summer off to focus on writing my book, which has been very interesting, because I tell people I know why I never did this before, because it's a huge commitment, and it's a huge pretending to be an introvert for me, because I'm having to stay inside, sit at the computer, write. And I'm doing it. But gosh, I am an extrovert. I'm a culture sleuth is what I call myself, because I really, I do a lot for Houston arts and culture. I get the word out about events, and, just sent out a email with 50 art seasons of 50 Houston, organizations. I love going out in arts and culture. So staying in and writing has been very interesting. But so I took the summer off to write the book, and I still have one more week of that, focused on that. And then now this art car thing happened where, and the art car is part of my art project. It's part of my business. So, I said to my husband, I'm going to have to take this semester, through the end of December, even more, to focus on creating this new art car. Unfortunately, sorry, but I think it's going to be even better. People keep saying it's going to be your best art car ever. I don't know about that. I don't want to pressure myself with that thinking. But, it's interesting because, and this is just going to sound weird probably to some people, other people will go, oh, yeah, of course. The car talks to me. The cars, when I make them, they kind of talk to me. And this one is telling me it really wants to be yellow. So I'm like, yellow? I mean, I have 4 colors that I use: yellow, teal, red, and orange. And they are all related to the chakras. And so I'm sure your listeners know, it's the 2nd, 3rd, 5th, fifth, right? Fifth is teal. Fourth, anyway, I'm sorry, first, second, third, and fifth. There you go. Those are the colors relating to those chakras. And so yellow is one of the colors. And this art project, that's the only colors I've used for this is my third art card with the project. So yellow, I'm kind of like, okay, all right, we can try this card. We'll try this Iggy. And then I started researching yellow and how important it was to Van Gogh and how, yellow is sun and warmth and, ignition, really. It's a perfect color for ignition. So it's not going to be majority yellow by any stretch, but it's going to be yellow underpinning. That's going to be the color underneath everything. And then I'm going to have the 12 ways, and it's going to be an explosion of mandalas and stripes or whatever. I don't know. Dots, lots of circles, tons of circles. I started doing that on the Love Ignites mobile. And circles are perfect. I mean, they are no beginning, no ending. It's just like life,
Just like you and your cars. I mean, coming back to a circle all the time. You keep mentioning the Ignite Your Life art project. Can you explain more about what the art project is? Is it
what the project is? Yes. Yeah, it's a lot. So the art project originally was this adventure with road trips and getting photos of people who tell me how they ignite their lives. And they actually hold a sign. It's that original sign that I made at midnight. I mean, I've made a new copy of it. But it says, how will you ignite your life? And so I've done several road trips. I've done 5 road trips. I was trying to add up the mileage the other day because I want to put it in the book. It's something like 40,000 miles, maybe more. I don't know. It's just tons of miles. I've gotten hundreds of photos. The book is going to have at least 144 photos from the project. 12 with each of the 12 ways. You're going to have 12 photos. So the project itself was originally, this thing where I did these road trips, and the road trips have significance. I mean, one of them was about studying our history, the true story of our country's history. Went to see Hamilton, went to the African American History Museum, the Smithsonian Museum. There were other trips that I went to Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is where I was born, and California, where my family's from. And the reason I did all of those, and those are all part of my Ignite Your Life art project, is because it's like important. I feel very strongly it's important to know where you're from, your family history, where you were born. If you can, visit your birthplace. Know your city's history. I'm going to address that. Know your country's history. I'll address that. So the art project was originally photographs and videos, and then it just became so much more. I mean, it exploded. And what's wonderful is that each person, I mean, I always worry about my memory, but my gosh, I'm looking over these photos that I've taken over the last 9 years. I can tell you a story about each person, each photo. And I have for each person how they ignited their lives. So that's really awesome. And, I look at these photos and they're smiling at me, they're holding their sign, and I think, where are they now? And, and I don't know, I probably have old emails for some of them. I do know, if nothing else, when we took that photo, they walked away and they said, I need to think about igniting my life for at least 5 minutes. And when for at least 5 minutes, hopefully maybe longer. But I have to tell you, this is one of my favorite stories about igniting lives and that question. I was at this fancy LA party in Los Angeles, and it was, filmmaker's house and And, there was a mixologist, we were in line to get fancy drinks. I don't drink, of course, but I was getting fancy, whatever, lemonade with mint. And I just was feeling very, it was vapid. The whole thing just felt really surface, and nothing against everybody that was there, but it just felt not like my usual kind of deep connections with people. So I turned to the mixologist when I got up there. Of course, I exchanged names with him. And then I said, of course, I said, of course, I can't remember it now either, but I said, what ignites your life? Because I just wanted to like slow down this whole like train of mixology, shishi drinks and blah, blah, blah. I just wanted to bring it to a different level. And he looked at me and he was like, what? And I said, no, what ignites your life? What makes your heart sing? And he goes, oh, I like long walks in the woods and I like reading. I was like, awesome. Okay, give me my drink. You know, it was just like this deeper thing. It was great. I mean, I encourage everybody to just go around and ask people what ignites their life. Because, you know, now I don't know if you know Jerry Jampolsky. He's one of my heroes. He wrote the book Love is Letting Go of Fear.
Right.
And, you know, it was like one of my books from my 20s. And I got to meet him. I got to do an Ignite Your Life photo and interview with him. And it was hilarious because I said, okay, Jerry, I'm going to ask you how you ignite your life on video. And he was like, okay. So I'd get them all hooked up with the microphone and we start rolling and I say, okay, how do you ignite your life? And he goes, how do I what? I'm like, that's what this whole thing is about. How do you ignite your life? So it was just funny because it's like, okay, he didn't really hear me. But then, you know, he went on and did a great interview. But so it's important that people hear you when you ask that
Well,
question.
obviously, is there something are there other conversations that stand out that you feel you can actually talk about where someone came up with a way of igniting their life where you could actually, well, a couple of things, where you could see a change in their face and their energy when they realized?
Oh, wow. You know, I always see a change, you know, and I literally have hundreds of photos, hundreds of stories. The mayor of Houston, Mayor Turner, I got his Ignite Your Life photo, and I was looking at that recently, and he said he ignites his life with murder mysteries.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, yeah, like he wouldn't know that. That's what's so cool. And then I do have another one that stands out, and I don't even think I got an Ignite Your Life photo with this guy, but it's somebody that I went to high school with. And he was one of those popular guys, you know, all the girls loved him. And I was doing an Ignite Your Life workshop, and I think his child was in it or something. And I just remember him coming up and getting his child. And I said, well, hey, I'm not going to say his name, but hey, X. How do you ignite your life? And he just looked at me because, you know, he was like this businessman. And he goes, huh, what? Kind of like Jerry did. And I said, how do you ignite your life? What makes your heart sing? And he goes, oh, wow. You know what really makes my heart sing is my electric guitar. And I said, well, when was the last time you played your electric guitar? And he just looked at me and he was like, it's been a long time. And I said, well, go home and play it, you know? And so things like that are really fun. And then I got a photo with Val Kilmer, too. I got an Ignite Your Life photo with him. And, you know, he just said movies. I mean, what else could you say? But
Really?
you know, but, yeah, and I'm about to do, what I'm trying to do now is consciously have at least one kind of leader photograph for each of the 12 ways to ignite your life. And so I, you know, like somebody trusts in spirit, who is the key person, and they're not going to be the key person in the book, but I just want to make sure that there's at least one person that really goes along with that idea. And I was thinking about service, be of service, and I thought of H-E-B because the grocery store here. And so I am so excited because I'm doing a photo with one of the principals of H-E-B, you know, sometime this month. And they're going to be in there, and I'm going to write about how H-E-B is so service-oriented, you know. And it's not a commercial. They're not paying me to be in the book or anything. But to me, it's just like notice what's good in your world, you know, and acknowledge that. And, you know, so I don't know. It's just...
There are people outside of Texas who hear this show. There are people outside the U.S. who hear this. Can real short form, why is H-E-B such a remarkable corporate citizen? What is it specifically that you can think of that they've done? I know natural disasters happen and they step up, but can you think of a few examples of what they've done?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, after the Uvalde shooting, and people know that from around the world, I actually, just a side note, I drove to Uvalde by myself. I drove 8 hours, stayed there 28 hours, and did a lot of work there with Ignite Your Life. And I'm very familiar with what happened in Uvalde. And we're going back, and we're doing a big healing event on World Labyrinth Day 2023. Anyway, but HEB has a store there, and they gave $10 million, the Charles Butt Foundation, to rebuild the elementary school, because of course those poor kids don't want to go back to the site of the tragic shooting that happened there in May. So they do things like that, and they also just, I mean, they are in the community. Yeah, I mean, tragedies, I would say, is their big thing, but also just on a daily basis, just going into your HEB. I don't know, maybe I'm just cheesy, but I just get a different feel. I feel like everybody there is happy, and I do know people that work at HEB. And, so if you don't even know what HEB is, or you don't have it in your neighborhood or city, find it, surely there's a grocery store that you like that's like that. And I want to throw this in, because part of what I'm doing with Ignite Your Life with the road trip is that I actually visited places that I did business with. I mean, I was desperate to get into Facebook, and I was really close, but didn't quite make it in there. I did get into Indiegogo, and Indiegogo is a fundraising platform, and I got into their offices because I feel it's important to know who you're doing business with and to choose who you're doing business with consciously. And so I went into Indiegogo, I interviewed some of them. I was like, this is awesome. These are the people who work on my, on my fundraising platforms. I wanted to go to SurveyMonkey, because that's another thing that I use, but I couldn't get that made out. But I went to, the first drive-through for Amy's Foods. I'm vegan, too. That's another thing I want to throw out there, is I'm vegan, which happened during the pandemic. But it felt important to me to have this life that's wholly intentional, how I want it to be. And that choice is not for everyone. I will not, look down at people. I mean, my husband's not vegan. We have like a house divided. There's the meat side and the vegan side. But for me personally, I just feel like it's important to live out, who I am, and to support companies that I align with. So that's where that grocery store, where HEB comes in. And I'm real excited that they're going to be part of it.
So it sounds like with these different visits that you've made, trying to seek out the humans and the faces behind the businesses that you've interacted with, that's just another form of making connection.
It is, absolutely. And, I can't say enough for that, because we just, a long time ago, back in 2005, I can pin it because it was the first Pioneers conference that I went to. I did a workshop called Logos, and Logos in Greek means the word and, one or something like that. And what I talked to, it was teenagers, and I talked to them and I said, look at the logos that you're wearing on your shirt. And it was like Nike and Gap or whatever. And I said, are you willing to, market those companies for free? I mean, do you know what Nike does? Do you know what Gap does? I'm not saying that those are bad companies. But before you start wearing logos, which is the word, it's a sacred word in Greek, think about what you're doing. Think about what you're doing. I want to throw in one other thing, too, just to go back to circles for a minute, because I really need to make sure I say labyrinth, because I love labyrinth.
That's on my list. That's on my list. How do labyrinths fit in with this? How do labyrinths fit in with this?
Labyrinths fit in very nicely because they're about connecting to yourself. And labyrinths, I want to be clear, are not mazes. So mazes are confusing, square, maybe complicated. You can't find your way out. Labyrinths are unicursal, so they're one path in and one path out. And I am a trained labyrinth facilitator. I got some training, and I've learned so much about labyrinths, and I facilitated labyrinth walks for 20 years. But the thing about labyrinths is that they're a metaphor for life. So you start walking a labyrinth, You go in, you walk into the center, you connect whatever works for you, and then you walk back out. And I have mantras that I've created for walking a labyrinth, which I use and I share with others, which is, as you're walking in, think release. As you're in the center, think receive. As you're walking out, think rejoice, because you've let go. And yeah, so labyrinths are, again, another circle, you know, and what's wonderful about them is, for some labyrinths, you can feel confused. Am I at the beginning? Am I at the end? I've been doing this weekly labyrinth walk from June 20th, I think it is, through August 31st, this past summer. And it was wonderful to go every Wednesday, and there was a group of us. We went at night, 8 to 9 p.m., and, you know, the last night I did it, I just kind of looked at the labyrinth while I was walking, and I was by myself, and I just was like, wow, this labyrinth is almost kind of overwhelming looking. And even for me, I mean, I've been walking labyrinths for 20 years, and I was thinking, there's a lot of walking I have to do. And it was weird to think that, you know, and then it was like, wait, that's right. This is a metaphor for life. You know, I have a lot of plates I'm spinning right now, but just like the labyrinth, I can walk one path at a time, you know, one path at a time, stay in the now. I will mention something else. The word now has an O in the center. Okay, so think about that O. It's like a circle. So you have, if you stay in the now, you're in that circle, and it's always now. Now keeps running away. You know, now it's yesterday or whatever. But if you stay in the center of now with that O, the circle, you're going to be okay.
And would you please tell us where people can find you?
Yes, you can find me at my favorite place is Ignite,